My hands trembled as I stood before the mirror in Stella's chambers, wearing her ceremonial Luna dress. The golden fabric felt foreign against my skin, and the moonstone crown weighed heavily on my head. Tonight was the night I would finally reveal the truth that had been hidden for 20 years. "You can do this, Celeste," I whispered to my reflection, practicing Stella's confident smile one more time. Through the window, I could see pack members gathering in the courtyard below for what they believed would be a celebration of their Luna's miraculous recovery from grief. They had no idea that their beloved Luna had been dead to them for months, living a lie with another man while I stood in her place. Tonight, Alpha Kieran would learn that the woman he'd grown to love again wasn't his original mate. But perhaps, if the moon goddess willed it, she was meant to be his true one all along. The sound of footsteps approaching made my heart race. This was it. After years of hiding in shadows and basements, watching my sister live the life that prophecy had denied me, I was about to step fully into the light. Whether that light would burn me or set me free remained to be seen. The night Stella and I were born, the sky turned blood red and every wolf in the Crescent Moon pack howled in terror. Elder Marta, our pack's ancient seer, took one look at us sleeping side by side and declared the prophecy that would shape our entire lives. Twin daughters born under the crimson moon shall bring either salvation or destruction to the pack. One must be hidden, or both shall perish. Mother wept as she made the impossible choice. Stella, born 3 minutes earlier, would be the acknowledged daughter and future Luna. I would be the secret, hidden away in the basement levels of the pack house, educated by tutors but never allowed to join pack gatherings or ceremonies. Father built me a comfortable apartment below ground, complete with books, art supplies, and everything a growing girl might need. Everything except freedom and a normal life. Why her and not me? I asked Mother countless times during my childhood visits. She would stroke my hair with tears in her eyes and whisper, "The prophecy speaks of hiding one twin, not which one." But Stella was born first, and the pack saw her first. It's too late to change it now. I learned to accept my fate, but I never stopped wondering what it would feel like to run freely under the moon, to shift with my pack, to be truly alive instead of merely existing in the shadows of Stella's perfect life. While Stella learned to lead and command respect, I learned to observe and understand. My bedroom walls were lined with books about pack politics, werewolf history, and leadership strategies. I studied everything I could about being a Luna, even though I never expected to use the knowledge. My tutors were sworn to secrecy about my existence, and they taught me not just academics but also how to fight, how to read people, and how to survive. The hardest part wasn't the isolation. It was watching Stella through the security monitors Father had installed throughout the pack house. I watched her first shift at 16, her graduation ceremony, her 18th birthday celebration where the entire pack gathered to honor their future Luna. I celebrated my own birthdays alone with a cupcake and a single candle, making wishes I knew would never come true. When Stella was 19, the mating arrangements began. Alpha Kieran Blackwood from the neighboring Shadowpine pack was 25, powerful, and looking for a Luna to unite their territories in peace. I watched through the cameras as they met, as they courted, as they fell in love, or at least as Stella appeared to fall in love. I couldn't help but study Kieran during his visits, noting his kindness to the pack servants, his genuine laugh, and the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. I told myself it was just curiosity, but deep down I was falling for a man I'd never met, a man who belonged to my sister and always would. Stella's mating ceremony was the most beautiful event our pack had ever seen. I watched from my hidden cameras as she walked down the aisle in the same golden dress I now wore, her smile radiant as she approached Kieran at the altar. The entire pack was there, celebrating their Luna's happiness, while I sat alone in my basement apartment with a bowl of popcorn and tears streaming down my face. The ceremony itself was magical. When Kieran placed the Luna crown on Stella's head and they completed the mating bond, every wolf in attendance howled their approval. I pressed my hand to the screen, wishing I could be there, wishing I could be normal, wishing I could have a chance at the kind of love I was witnessing. They looked so perfect together, so right, that I almost convinced myself Stella's happiness was worth my sacrifice. But even through the cameras, I could see something that no one else seemed to notice. During the most sacred part of the ceremony, When mates typically feel the strongest bond connection, Stella's smile flickered for just a moment. Her eyes darted toward the packhouse entrance as if she was looking for someone else. It was so brief that I thought I imagined it, but that moment of doubt planted a seed of suspicion that would grow in the months to come. Something wasn't quite right about Stella's perfect mating, but I had no idea how deep her deception truly ran. For the first year of Stella and Kieran's mating, everything seemed wonderful. They ruled the pack together with wisdom and strength, made smart alliances with neighboring territories, and were beloved by everyone. I continued my hidden existence, but I started paying closer attention to Stella's behavior when she thought no one was watching. She would disappear for hours without explanation, claiming she needed alone time to commune with the moon goddess. My suspicions grew when I noticed her scent changing. As her twin, I was uniquely sensitive to alterations in her smell, and lately, she carried traces of unfamiliar cologne and emotions that didn't match her public happiness. During pack meetings, I watched her fidget with her wedding ring and check her phone constantly. Most telling of all, she began asking strange questions about pack security, territorial boundaries, and emergency evacuation procedures. The breaking point came 6 months ago when I accidentally intercepted one of her private phone calls through the security system. "I can't keep pretending much longer, Derek," she whispered to someone late at night. "Kieran is getting suspicious about my distances, and I miss you terribly. We need to move up our timeline." My heart sank as I realized my perfect sister was having an affair, and not just any affair. She was planning to abandon her pack, her mate, and her responsibilities for another man. The prophecy that had controlled our lives was about to be fulfilled, but not in the way anyone expected. I should have confronted Stella immediately, but something held me back. Maybe it was years of conditioning to stay hidden, or maybe it was a growing realization that this situation might finally give me a chance at the life I'd always dreamed of. Instead of revealing what I knew, I began my own secret preparations. I studied Stella's mannerisms more carefully, practiced her voice and laugh, and learned every detail of her daily routines. Mother had unknowingly helped by insisting that Stella and I were identical in every way except our scents, and even those were remarkably similar due to our twin bond. We had the same laugh, the same gestures, and the same way of tilting our heads when we were thinking. The main differences were in our personalities. Stella was naturally confident and outgoing, while I was more observant and thoughtful. But I'd had 20 years to study her, and I knew I could mimic her behavior if necessary. My opportunity came when Stella started talking about going away for a spiritual retreat, to reconnect with her Luna duties. She told Kieran she needed time alone to prepare for important pack decisions, but I knew she was planning to disappear with Derek forever. She'd already been slowly moving money and resources, creating fake documents, and preparing for a life far away from the supernatural world. What she didn't realize was that her twin sister was preparing to take her place, not just temporarily, but potentially forever. The hidden daughter was about to become the Luna, and unlike Stella, I had no intention of running away from the responsibility. The night of Stella's planned spiritual retreat was cloudy and moonless, perfect for deception. She came to my basement apartment one last time, tears streaming down her face as she explained her plan. "I'm sorry, Celeste. I know this will be hard on the pack, but I can't live a lie anymore. Derek is my true mate, not Kieran. I've been pretending for 2 years, and it's killing me inside." I listened to her confession with a mixture of anger and sympathy. Part of me was furious that she would abandon her responsibilities and leave Kieran heartbroken. But another part understood the pain of living a lie, of being trapped by circumstances beyond your control. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Cover for me," she pleaded. "Just for a few days while I get far enough away. Tell them I'm in deep meditation and can't be disturbed. By the time they realize I'm really gone, Derek and I will be too far to track." She pressed a bottle of her perfume into my hands along with her Luna pendant. "Wear these to help mask the scent difference. Please, Celeste. You're the only one I can trust." I agreed to help her, but I didn't tell her about my real plan. As she hugged me goodbye and slipped out of the packhouse toward her new life, I was already putting on her clothes and preparing to become Luna Stella permanently. The prophecy had said one twin must be hidden to save the pack, but it never specified which twin had to stay hidden forever. Tonight, the hidden twin would finally step into the light, and the acknowledged twin would disappear into shadows. Felt like justice, even if it terrified me. Waking up in Stella's bed felt like entering a dream I'd never dared to have. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a room 3 times the size of my basement apartment. Everything was decorated in shades of cream and gold, from the silk curtains to the plush carpet beneath my feet. For the first time in my life, I could see the forest from my bedroom window instead of concrete walls. The hardest part was facing Kieran. When he knocked on the bedroom door asking if I was ready for breakfast, my heart nearly stopped. "Just a few more minutes," I called out, using Stella's slightly higher voice pitch. "I'm still feeling a bit weak from my spiritual journey." I'd practiced her speech patterns for months, but actually speaking to Kieran felt completely different. When I finally emerged, wearing one of Stella's casual dresses, Kieran's concerned eyes searched my face. "You look different," he said softly, reaching out to touch my cheek. More present somehow. The retreat must have really helped. I nearly collapsed with relief that he attributed the change to Stella's supposed spiritual experience rather than suspecting the truth. Breakfast was both wonderful and terrifying. I sat across from this handsome, kind man who thought I was his mate, trying to remember every detail Stella had shared about their conversations and inside jokes. When he mentioned pack business I wasn't familiar with, I claimed my spiritual journey had given me new perspectives that required careful consideration. Somehow, I made it through our first meal together without arousing suspicion, but I knew the real challenges were just beginning. My first week as Luna was like drinking from a fire hose. Every day brought meetings with pack members, decisions about territory management, and social obligations I'd only observed from afar. The hardest part was pretending to remember people and relationships that Stella had built over 20 years. I relied heavily on my natural ability to read people and my years of studying pack dynamics from my hidden cameras. Fortunately, many pack members attributed my slightly different responses to the life-changing spiritual retreats Stella had supposedly experienced. When I listened more carefully to pack concerns or asked more detailed questions about their problems, they praised their Luna's newfound wisdom and attentiveness. I began to wonder if I might actually be better at this job than Stella had been. The most challenging moments came during private time with Kieran. He would reference shared memories I didn't have, or expect me to react to his touches in ways that were uniquely Stella's. I developed strategies to redirect these moments, claiming I was still spiritually sensitive and needed time to readjust to physical intimacy, or suggesting we create new memories instead of dwelling on old ones. What surprised me most was how much I genuinely enjoyed being Luna. Making decisions that helped pack members, resolving conflicts with wisdom instead of force, and working alongside Kieran felt natural and fulfilling. For the first time in my life I felt truly useful and appreciated. The guilt of deceiving everyone was still there, but it was overshadowed by the joy of finally living instead of merely existing. I began to hope that maybe, just maybe, I could make this work permanently. 3 weeks into my masquerade, something unexpected began happening between Kieran and me. The polite distance he'd maintained with Stella started dissolving into genuine warmth and connection. He would seek out my opinions on pack matters, laugh at observations I made about pack members, and sit closer to me during evening conversations by the fireplace. "I don't know what happened during your retreat," he told me one evening as we walked through the pack gardens, "but you seem more yourself somehow, more real." His words sent both joy and panic through my heart. Joy because he was falling for the real me, panic because he still thought I was Stella. The most dangerous moment came when he tried to kiss me during a particularly romantic sunset. I turned my head at the last second, his lips brushing my cheek instead. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm still readjusting to everything." The spiritual realm showed me things that changed how I see our relationship. "I need a little more time." He was understanding but confused, and I could see questions forming in his eyes. That night, alone in Stella's room, I stared at myself in the mirror and realized I was falling hopelessly in love with my sister's mate. Every kind gesture, every intelligent conversation, every moment of his protective care made my feelings deeper. But loving him meant living a lie forever, and I wasn't sure I was strong enough to carry that burden. The prophecy had warned that twins would bring either salvation or destruction to the pack. I just prayed I could figure out which one I represented before my growing feelings destroyed everything I'd tried to protect. A month into my new life, our pack faced its first real crisis since I'd taken Stella's place. A group of rogue wolves had been spotted near our southern border, and as Luna, I was expected to help coordinate our response. My heart pounded as I sat in the war room with Kieran and our top warriors, trying to remember everything I'd learned about pack defense from my secret studies. "What do you think, Stella?" Kieran asked. His eyes focused on the territorial maps spread across the table. "You've always had good instincts about rogue behavior." I took a deep breath, drawing on years of theoretical knowledge I'd never had to apply in real life. Instead of giving Stella's typical quick decision, I asked questions about the rogues' patterns, their possible motivations, and what our scouts had observed about their numbers and condition. My careful analysis impressed everyone in the room, especially when I suggested a strategy that would protect our families while gathering more information about the rogues' intentions. "Maybe they're not here to attack," I proposed. "What if they're refugees fleeing from something worse?" Kieran smiled at me with such pride and admiration that my chest swelled with warmth. For the first time I felt like I truly belonged in this room, making decisions that mattered. When our scouts later confirmed that the rogues were indeed families seeking sanctuary from a territorial war, I realized that being cautious and thoughtful, traits I'd developed during my hidden years, might actually make me a better Luna than Stella's impulsive confidence ever had. The hardest person to fool turned out to be Mother. She'd been watching me carefully during pack gatherings, and I could see questions growing in her eyes every time we interacted. During our weekly tea time, a tradition Stella had maintained, Mother's scrutiny felt like being examined under a microscope. "You seem different lately, sweetheart," she said, stirring honey into her cup with deliberate slowness. "More thoughtful, more careful with your words. It reminds me of..." She paused, her eyes growing distant. "It reminds me of your sister." My blood turned to ice water. I'd been so focused on fooling Kieran and the pack that I'd forgotten Mother knew both her daughters better than anyone. I forced Stella's bright laugh and waved dismissively. "The spiritual retreat changed my perspective on a lot of things, Mother. I've learned the value of listening more and speaking less." But Mother wasn't convinced. She reached across the table and took my hand, studying my palm as if it might reveal secrets. "Your hands are softer," she murmured. Stella's hands were always rougher from her outdoor training. The conversation haunted me for days afterward. I started doing more physical training to roughen my hands and spent extra time practicing Stella's mannerisms in front of mirrors. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Mother suspected something, and if she figured out the truth, everything I'd built would crumble. The weight of deception grew heavier with each passing day, but the thought of losing this life, losing Kieran, made me more determined than ever to perfect my act. Being Luna meant navigating complex relationships with other packs, and my first major test came when Alpha Marcus from the neighboring Crimson Ridge pack requested a diplomatic meeting. Stella had always handled these situations with charm and confidence, but I approached it with careful preparation and genuine interest in finding mutually beneficial solutions. The meeting took place in our formal reception hall, with Kieran by my side and our senior pack members in attendance. Alpha Marcus had brought his beta and 2 advisors, and the tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. They were seeking hunting rights on a stretch of forest that bordered both our territories, and Stella had apparently been resistant to their previous requests. Instead of immediately refusing like Stella would have, I asked detailed questions about their needs, their pack's growth, and what they could offer in exchange. My approach surprised everyone, especially when I suggested a trial period with specific conditions that would benefit both packs. "This is unexpected," Alpha Marcus admitted, looking pleased. Your previous position was much more rigid. Kieran squeezed my hand under the table, and I could feel his approval radiating through their bond. After the successful negotiation, he pulled me aside with eyes shining with admiration. "That was brilliant," he said softly. "You found a solution that makes everyone happy while still protecting our interests. When did you become such a skilled diplomat?" I smiled and told him it was another gift from my spiritual journey, but inside I was glowing with pride. Maybe I really could be the Luna this pack needed. 6 weeks into my masquerade, I nearly got caught in the most embarrassing way possible. I was in the pack kitchen early one morning, trying to make Kieran's favorite breakfast as a surprise, when pack member Jenny walked in and started chatting about a conversation she'd apparently had with Stella just before the retreat. "I'm so glad you decided to plant those roses we talked about," Jenny said cheerfully, not noticing my confused expression. "The garden committee is so excited to help with the layout we discussed." I had no idea what roses she was talking about, or what layout had been planned. My mind raced as I tried to figure out how to respond without revealing my ignorance. "Oh, the roses," I said carefully. "I've been reconsidering the placement after my spiritual experience. Could you remind me what we discussed? I want to make sure we're all on the same page." Jenny looked puzzled but repeated the plans, and I nodded thoughtfully, pretending to evaluate the information with my new perspective. The incident shook me badly. I realized there were dozens of small conversations, promises, and plans that Stella had made which I knew nothing about. That afternoon, I started keeping a detailed journal of every interaction, every commitment, and every piece of pack business I encountered. I also began having longer conversations with pack members, claiming I wanted to reconnect with everyone after my retreat. It was exhausting trying to piece together Stella's life while living my own, but it was the only way to avoid more close calls that could expose my secret. The more time I spent with Kieran, the more I saw why Stella had chosen to run away rather than tell him the truth about not feeling their mate bond. He was everything a Luna could want in a partner: kind, strong, intelligent, and deeply caring about his pack. But that also made my deception feel more cruel with each passing day. During a pack celebration for the successful rogue negotiation, Kieran asked me to dance. As we swayed together under the moonlight, he looked into my eyes with such tenderness that my heart nearly broke. "I feel like I'm falling in love with you all over again," he whispered. "It's like you've become the person I always hoped you could be." His words were both beautiful and devastating. He was falling in love with me, but he thought I was Stella. Every kiss on my forehead, every gentle touch, every moment of connection was built on a lie. When he suggested we should think about starting a family soon, I panicked and claimed I needed more time to fully recover from my spiritual transformation. That night, alone in Stella's bed, I cried for the first time since taking her place. I was living the life I'd always dreamed of, but it was all based on deception. Kieran deserved honesty, and I deserved to be loved for who I really was, not for who I was pretending to be. But I was in too deep now, and the thought of losing everything, losing him, was more terrifying than continuing the lie. I fell asleep wondering if this was how Stella had felt, trapped between duty and desire, and whether I was making the same mistakes she had. 2 months as Luna taught me that leadership was far more complex than I'd understood from my hidden observations. Every decision affected multiple families, every policy had unexpected consequences, and every day brought new challenges that required careful thought and genuine wisdom. Unlike Stella's natural confidence, I had to earn my authority through consistent good judgment and genuine care for pack members. My breakthrough moment came during a dispute between 2 pack families over hunting territory boundaries. The conflict had been simmering for months, with both sides feeling wronged and tempers running high. Stella had apparently been avoiding the issue, hoping it would resolve itself, but it was only getting worse. Instead of making a quick ruling like a traditional alpha or Luna might, I spent time with both families, listening to their concerns and understanding the history behind their conflict. I discovered that the real issue wasn't territory. It was pride and old wounds from a misunderstanding years ago. By addressing the underlying hurt and helping both families see each other's perspectives, I was able to find a solution that left everyone feeling heard and respected. "You have a gift for this," Elder Samuel told me afterward. "You see beyond the surface problem to the heart of what's really wrong. That's true Luna wisdom." His words meant more to me than any compliment I'd ever received. For the first time in my life, I felt truly valuable, truly needed. The pack was responding to my leadership style with growing trust and respect, and I began to wonder if fate had somehow intended for this switch to happen. Maybe I was meant to be Luna, and Stella was meant to find her happiness elsewhere. 3 months into my new life, everything changed when I found an unmarked envelope slipped under my bedroom door. Inside was a single sheet of paper with words that made my blood run cold. "I know who you really are. We need to talk. Meet me at the old oak tree at midnight, or I'll tell Alpha Kieran the truth about his mate." My hands shook as I read the message over and over, searching for any clue about who might have discovered my secret. The handwriting was unfamiliar, and there were no distinguishing marks on the paper. Someone knew about the switch, and they were using that knowledge to threaten everything I'd built. The day dragged by endlessly as I tried to act normal while my mind raced with possibilities. Was it Mother, finally ready to confront me about her suspicions? A pack member who'd noticed inconsistencies in my behavior? Or worse, had Stella told someone about our arrangement before she left? Every interaction felt loaded with potential danger. Every glance seemed suspicious. As midnight approached, I slipped out of the pack house and made my way to the ancient oak tree at the edge of our territory. My heart pounded so hard I was sure anyone nearby could hear it. The moon was half full, casting eerie shadows through the forest as I waited for my mysterious blackmailer to appear. When footsteps finally approached through the darkness, I held my breath, preparing to face whoever held my secret and my future in their hands. The person who emerged from the shadows was the last one I expected. Derek, the man Stella had run away with. My shock must have been obvious because he held up his hands peacefully and spoke quickly. "Don't panic, Celeste. I'm not here to expose you. I'm here to warn you." "Derek," I gasped, my voice barely a whisper. "What are you doing here? Where's Stella?" He looked exhausted and worried. Nothing like the confident man I'd glimpsed in stolen moments through the security cameras. His clothes were rumpled, and there were dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and constant worry. "Stella's safe, but we have a problem," he said urgently. "Someone else knows about the switch. A tracker named Vincent has been hired to find Stella and bring her back. He's been asking questions around neighboring packs, and he's getting close to figuring out what really happened. If he discovers that you're not really Stella, it won't just expose your secret, it'll lead him straight to us." My mind reeled with this new information. Someone was actively hunting for Stella, which meant my masquerade might be the only thing protecting her and Derek from whatever consequences awaited them. "Who hired this tracker?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. "We're not sure, but we think it might be someone from Stella's past who doesn't want her to be happy," Derek replied grimly. "Someone who benefits from chaos in your pack. You need to be extra careful, Celeste. If Vincent figures out the truth, it won't just destroy your new life. It could put everyone you care about in danger." Derek's warning changed everything. I was no longer just protecting my own secret. I was protecting Stella and Derek from an unknown enemy who wanted to drag them back for reasons we couldn't understand. The weight of responsibility felt crushing, but it also strengthened my resolve to maintain the deception at all costs. "There's something else," Derek said before leaving that night. "Stella wanted me to give you this." He handed me a small leather journal filled with Stella's handwriting, detailed notes about pack members, their relationships, ongoing projects, and personal details I'd been missing. "She wrote down everything she could remember that might help you. She's grateful for what you're doing, even if she can't say it herself." Reading Stella's journal was both helpful and heartbreaking. Her notes revealed how much she'd struggled with her role as Luna, how isolated she'd felt, and how desperately she'd wanted to escape long before she met Derek. "I never felt the mate bond with Kieran," she'd written. I tried to convince myself it would grow over time, but it never did. I felt like I was drowning in a life that belonged to someone else. Her words echoed my own feelings from years of hiding, but in reverse. She'd felt trapped in the spotlight while I'd felt trapped in shadows. The irony wasn't lost on me. By switching places, we'd both found where we truly belonged. Stella was free to love Derek without the weight of pack expectations, and I was free to be the Luna I'd always dreamed of becoming. But now Vincent the tracker threatened to destroy both our newly found happiness, and I had to find a way to protect us all. Armed with Stella's journal and Derek's warning, I began preparing for Vincent's eventual arrival. I couldn't prevent him from coming, but I could control what he found when he got here. Using my years of strategic thinking and observation skills, I started laying groundwork to make my identity as Stella absolutely unshakable. I began having memory sessions with longtime pack members, claiming my spiritual retreat had helped me recall forgotten details from our shared past. Using Stella's journal as a guide, I would bring up old incidents and ask people to help me remember the full story. This served two purposes. It filled in gaps in my knowledge while making it seem like Stella's memories were intact and detailed. I also started creating new routines and habits that were distinctly mine, but framed them as positive changes from my spiritual growth. When I showed more interest in books and learning than Stella ever had, I explained it as a newfound appreciation for knowledge and wisdom. When I approached problems with more caution and analysis, I called it enhanced spiritual insight. Most importantly, I began documenting everything about our current pack operations, ongoing projects, and recent decisions. If Vincent questioned pack members about their Luna, they would have months of consistent behavior and clear memories to support my identity as Stella. I was building a fortress of false memories and fabricated history, but it was the only way to protect everyone I cared about. The hidden twin had learned to hide in plain sight, and I was determined to play this dangerous game until I won, or until it destroyed everything I'd fought to protect. Vincent the tracker arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning, just as Derek had warned. I watched from my office window as a tall, lean man with silver-streaked hair approached the pack house entrance. Everything about him screamed danger, from his predatory walk to the way his eyes constantly scanned for details others might miss. My hands trembled as I prepared to face the greatest threat to my secret yet. "Alpha Kieran Luna Stella," he said with a respectful bow when introduced in our formal meeting room. "I'm Vincent Cross, a professional tracker. I've been hired to locate a missing person, your sister-in-law, who apparently disappeared several months ago during what was described as a spiritual retreat." His pale gray eyes fixed on me with uncomfortable intensity. "I was hoping you might have some insights about her disappearance." My heart pounded, but I forced myself to remain calm and respond as Stella would. "I'm afraid I don't know anything about a missing sister-in-law," I said with just the right amount of confusion. "Perhaps there's been some mistake. I only have one sister, and she's been away from pack life for many years due to personal reasons." Kieran squeezed my hand supportively, completely unaware of the deadly game being played right in front of him. Vincent's smile was sharp and knowing. "Forgive me, perhaps I was misinformed. May I ask about your own retreat? I understand it was quite transformative." The way he said, transformative, made it clear he suspected something, but I held my ground. This was exactly the kind of interrogation I'd prepared for, and I was ready to play my part perfectly. Vincent spent the next several days interviewing pack members about their Luna's recent changes and her spiritual retreat. I monitored his progress carefully, using my network of loyal pack members to keep track of his questions and their responses. Most importantly, I made sure to be visible and active in my Luna duties, demonstrating consistent behavior that supported my identity. The tracker was thorough and clever, asking seemingly innocent questions that were actually designed to catch inconsistencies. He inquired about my favorite foods, my training routines, my relationships with specific pack members, and my opinions on pack policies. Thanks to Stella's journal and my months of careful preparation, I was able to answer everything accurately. What worried me most was how Vincent watched me when he thought I wasn't looking. During pack gatherings, I could feel his eyes studying my mannerisms, my interactions, even the way I held my coffee cup. He was building a profile, comparing the current me to whatever information he'd gathered about the previous Stella. "Your Luna seems very dedicated to her people," Vincent commented to Kieran during a casual conversation I overheard. "Has she always been so attentive to details?" Kieran's proud response about my spiritual growth and newfound wisdom made me both grateful and terrified. Every compliment about how I'd changed could be seen as evidence of deception if Vincent chose to interpret it that way. Vincent's most dangerous move came when he requested a private conversation with me, claiming he had sensitive information about supernatural threats in the region. We met in the Pack Library, surrounded by centuries of werewolf history and Pack records, a fitting place for what felt like a battle for my very existence. "You're an excellent actress," he said without preamble, his gray eyes cold and calculating. "But I've been tracking missing persons for 30 years, and I know when someone is living a borrowed life." My blood turned to ice, but I forced myself to maintain Stella's confused expression. "I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you're talking about." "The scent is wrong," he continued, circling me like a predator. "Oh, it's close, remarkably close actually. Twin sisters often share similar scents, but there are always subtle differences that a trained nose can detect. You've done an admirable job masking it, but you can't fool someone who knows what to look for." I realized this was the moment of truth. I could continue denying everything and hope he lacked proof, or I could try a different strategy. Taking a deep breath, I made a calculated gamble. "What do you want?" I asked quietly, dropping the pretense just enough to acknowledge his suspicions without confirming them. His smile was triumphant but not unkind, the expression of someone who'd solved a difficult puzzle. "I want the truth," Vincent said, settling into a chair across from me. "Not to expose you, to understand you. In 30 years of tracking, I've never encountered a substitution this seamless or this beneficial. Your pack is thriving under your leadership in ways it never did before." His words stunned me. I'd expected threats and blackmail, not analysis and curiosity. "You're not here to drag me back?" I asked cautiously, still not fully admitting to anything. Vincent shook his head, his expression thoughtful rather than hostile. "I was hired to find the missing Luna and return her to face consequences for abandoning her duties," he explained. "But what I've found is a pack with better leadership, happier members, and stronger alliances than they've had in years. The question isn't whether you're the original Stella, it's whether exposing the truth would help or harm these people." We sat in silence for several minutes while I processed his unexpected perspective. Finally, he leaned forward with genuine curiosity. "Tell me your story. Help me understand how a hidden twin became a better Luna than the acknowledged daughter ever was." Something in his tone made me believe he truly wanted to understand rather than condemn. For the first time in months, I found myself wanting to tell the truth to someone who might actually listen without judgment. But I also knew that trusting Vincent could either save everything I'd built or destroy it completely. After hours of careful conversation and testing each other's intentions, I finally told Vincent my story. I explained about the prophecy, my hidden childhood, Stella's affair and abandonment, and my decision to take her place permanently. He listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or asking clarifying questions that showed he understood the complexity of my situation. "The prophecy said one twin must be hidden to save the pack," Vincent mused when I finished. "Perhaps it didn't mean hidden forever. Perhaps it meant hidden until the right moment to emerge." His interpretation offered a perspective I'd never considered, one that made my actions seem less like deception and more like destiny. "Who hired you to find Stella?" I asked, needing to understand the full scope of the threat we faced. Vincent's expression darkened, and he was quiet for a long moment before answering. "A consortium of old guard werewolf families who believe in maintaining traditional bloodlines and preventing change in pack leadership. They see your sister's abandonment as an opportunity to destabilize your pack and install their own candidate as Luna." The revelation was worse than I'd feared. This wasn't just about Stella running away. It was about powerful enemies trying to destroy our pack's independence. They want to use Stella's disappearance to claim our pack is unstable and needs outside intervention, Vincent continued. But if they discover you've been successfully leading in her place, it undermines their entire argument. I realized that my masquerade wasn't just protecting my secret anymore. It was protecting our pack's freedom and autonomy. The stakes had just gotten much higher, and Vincent's next words confirmed my worst fears. They're planning to make their move soon, and they won't be as easy to fool as I was. Vincent's revelation changed everything about our relationship. Instead of adversaries, we became reluctant allies united by a common goal: protecting my pack from the consortium's interference. I have a reputation to maintain, he explained, but I also have a conscience. What you've built here is worth preserving. Together, we developed a strategy to mislead the consortium while strengthening my position as Luna. Vincent would report back that he'd found evidence of Stella's continued presence and excellent leadership, providing documentation that would satisfy his employers while protecting the truth. In exchange, I would help him gather intelligence about the consortium's other activities and their plans for neighboring packs. You'll need to be even more careful now, Vincent warned. They'll send others to verify my report, and some of them won't be as reasonable as I am. He taught me advanced techniques for scent masking, helped me refine my impersonation skills, and shared knowledge about werewolf politics that my hidden education had missed. Most importantly, he helped me understand that my success as Luna wasn't just good fortune. It was the result of skills I'd developed during my years of observation and study. You see things others miss because you spent 20 years watching and learning, he said. That perspective makes you uniquely qualified for leadership, regardless of which twin you are. His validation meant more to me than he could know. For the first time, someone had seen through my deception and chosen to support me anyway, not because they were fooled, but because they believed in who I really was. While Vincent and I worked together to protect our secret, I began noticing changes in Kieran's behavior that worried me deeply. He would watch me with a puzzled expression during pack meetings, as if trying to solve a mystery he couldn't quite identify. Our intimate moments became filled with long pauses where he seemed to be studying my face, searching for something he couldn't name. The breaking point came during a quiet evening when we were reviewing pack financial reports together. "You understand these numbers better than I expected," he said suddenly, looking up from the ledgers with confusion clear in his eyes. "When did you become so interested in budget analysis and resource allocation?" My heart raced, but I forced a laugh and gave him the same explanation I'd been using for months. The spiritual retreat opened my mind to aspects of leadership I'd never considered important before. I realized I needed to understand every part of pack management, not just the social elements. But Kieran wasn't satisfied with that answer. He set down his pen and turned to face me fully, his green eyes intense and searching. "Stella, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me." The serious tone of his voice made my stomach drop with dread. "Sometimes when I look at you, it's like you're a completely different person. Not better or worse, just different. Are you hiding something from me?" The direct question hung in the air between us like a loaded weapon. I had to make a split-second decision about how to respond, knowing that my answer could either preserve our relationship or destroy everything I'd worked so hard to build. Instead of deflecting Kieran's question with another lie, I decided to risk a partial truth, something that might satisfy his suspicions while protecting the bigger secret. I took his hands in mine and looked directly into his eyes, letting him see the genuine emotion behind my words. "You're right," I said softly. "I have been hiding something, but not what you might think." I took a deep breath, crafting my words carefully. During my retreat, I realized that I'd been pretending to be someone I wasn't for years. I was trying so hard to be the perfect Luna that I lost sight of who I really am underneath all those expectations. Kieran's expression shifted from suspicion to concern and understanding. "What do you mean?" he asked gently, his thumb stroking across my knuckles in a gesture of comfort and support. "I mean that the person you're seeing now, the one who asks more questions, thinks things through more carefully, and approaches problems differently, This is who I really am when I'm not trying to live up to everyone else's idea of what Luna Stella should be." The words felt surprisingly true, even though they weren't the complete truth. "I was afraid you'd be disappointed if I stopped being the confident, decisive person you mated with." Relief flooded Kieran's features, followed immediately by tenderness and guilt. "Oh, Stella," he said, pulling me into his arms. "I fell in love with you, not with some perfect image of what a Luna should be. If anything, I love this version of you even more because she feels more real, more genuine." His acceptance of my partial truth both thrilled and terrified me, because it meant he was falling in love with the real me while still believing I was someone else. Kieran's acceptance of my true self-revelation brought us closer than ever before, but it also intensified my guilt about the deception. He began sharing more personal thoughts and feelings, opening up about his own insecurities and fears as an alpha. Our conversations grew deeper and more intimate, and I found myself falling harder for him with each passing day. "I used to worry that you mated with me out of duty rather than love," he confessed one evening as we walked through the moonlit gardens. "But now I feel like I'm getting to know the real you for the first time, and I'm amazed by who you are underneath all that perfection you thought you had to maintain." His words were both beautiful and heartbreaking. He was indeed getting to know the real me, but he still believed that person was Stella. Every moment of genuine connection we shared was built on a foundation of lies, and I didn't know how much longer I could bear the weight of that contradiction. The physical side of our relationship was also becoming more challenging to navigate. Kieran's growing emotional intimacy naturally led to expectations of physical intimacy that I continued to deflect with claims about needing time to rediscover myself after my spiritual transformation. But I could see questions beginning to form in his eyes again, and I knew I was running out of believable excuses. That night, as I lay beside him listening to his peaceful breathing, I realized I was facing an impossible choice. I could continue the deception and build a life with a man I loved based on lies, or I could tell him the truth and risk losing everything. Either path seemed destined to break both our hearts, and I had no idea which choice would cause less damage to everyone involved. My personal dilemmas were suddenly overshadowed when Vincent's warnings about the consortium proved all too accurate. 3 members of the old guard werewolf families arrived unannounced, claiming they were conducting a routine assessment of pack stability following reports of leadership changes. Their leader, an elderly woman named Counselor Blackthorn, had eyes like chips of ice and a smile that never reached them. "We've heard remarkable things about your recovery and renewed leadership," she said to me during their formal introduction, but her tone suggested she found nothing remarkable about it at all. "It's quite unusual for a Luna to undergo such dramatic personality changes and emerge stronger than before." The consortium members spent 3 days examining every aspect of our pack operations, interviewing key members, and asking probing questions about recent policy changes and improvements. Unlike Vincent, they weren't interested in understanding or protecting anything. They were looking for any excuse to declare our leadership illegitimate. What made their visit truly dangerous was how they interacted with Kieran. They praised his leadership while subtly questioning my contributions, suggesting that perhaps he might be better served with a more traditional Luna from one of their allied families. I watched my mates' confusion and growing anger as they implied I was somehow inadequate or unsuitable for my role. The final confrontation came when Counselor Blackthorn requested a private meeting with me, just as Vincent had done weeks earlier. But unlike Vincent's genuine curiosity, her intentions were clearly hostile. "We know what you are," she said without preamble, "and we're prepared to expose your deception unless you step down voluntarily and allow us to install a proper Luna in your place." The consortium's true plan was finally revealed, and I realized that everything I'd fought to protect was about to be put to the ultimate test. I met Counselor Blackthorn's icy stare with steel in my own eyes, drawing on every lesson I'd learned about leadership and courage during my months as Luna. "I don't know what you think you know," I said calmly, "but I am Luna Stella Blackwood, and I will not be intimidated by baseless accusations or threats." The old woman's smile turned predatory, but I continued before she could speak. "If you have concerns about my leadership, I invite you to present them to the Pack Council with evidence. Otherwise, I suggest you remember that you are guests in my territory, and guests who threaten their hosts are not welcome to stay. My defiance clearly surprised her. She'd expected the hidden twin to crumble under pressure, but I'd spent months learning to be stronger than that. When Counselor Blackthorne emerged from our meeting with barely concealed fury, Kieran immediately sensed the tension and positioned himself protectively beside me. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his alpha authority radiating through his voice in a way that made every wolf in the room instinctively submit. The consortium members exchanged glances, realizing they'd underestimated both my resolve and my mate's loyalty. "No problem at all," Blackthorne replied smoothly. "We were simply discussing Luna Stella's remarkable transformation and growth. It's quite extraordinary how much she's changed." Kieran's arm tightened around my waist, and his response made my heart soar with pride and love. My mate has always been extraordinary. Her recent spiritual growth has simply allowed her true potential to shine through. Anyone who can't see that isn't worth our time. The consortium's final gambit was to call a pack assembly and publicly question my fitness as Luna, hoping to sow doubt among the pack members and create the instability they needed to justify intervention. But their plan backfired spectacularly when pack member after pack member stood up to defend me and praise the positive changes they'd seen in recent months. Elder Samuel spoke passionately about my wisdom in resolving the family territory dispute. Jenny praised my involvement in community projects, and even the warriors testified to my strategic thinking during the rogue crisis. "Our Luna has become everything we could have hoped for and more," Samuel declared to the assembled crowd. "She listens, she thinks, she cares about every member of this pack. We are stronger and happier under her leadership than we have been in years." The overwhelming support from my pack was both deeply moving and terrifying. They were defending me so fiercely, but they were defending someone they thought was Stella. As the consortium prepared to leave empty-handed, Vincent made one last play to protect our secret. He presented them with a detailed report claiming he'd thoroughly investigated all concerns about Luna Stella and found them baseless, supported by testimony from pack members, documentation of successful leadership decisions, and even sent analysis confirming my identity. "The Luna is exactly who she appears to be," he stated firmly, "and any suggestion otherwise is either mistaken or malicious." His professional reputation and expertise carried enough weight to give the consortium pause, but I could see in Blackthorne's eyes that this wasn't over. They retreated for now, but they would return with different tactics and more dangerous weapons. After they left, Vincent found me alone and delivered a sobering warning. "You won this battle, but the war is far from over. They'll be back, and next time they'll be prepared for your strength. You need to decide soon whether you're going to keep hiding behind Stella's identity or step into your own power as the Luna this pack truly needs." A week after the consortium's departure, my carefully constructed world began to show its first real crack. Kieran had been quieter than usual, and I finally discovered why when I found him in his study late one night, surrounded by old pack records and photo albums. "I've been thinking about what those people said," he admitted when I entered. "About how much you've changed. So I decided to look back at some old pictures and videos from before your retreat." My heart stopped as he gestured to the materials spread across his desk. "These images. When I compare them to how you are now, it's like looking at two different people. Not just personality changes but subtle physical differences too. The way you hold your shoulders, the expressions you make when you're thinking." He looked up at me with eyes full of confusion and growing suspicion. "Stella, I need you to tell me the truth. What really happened during your retreat?" Faced with Kieran's direct confrontation and photographic evidence, I had to make split-second decisions about how to handle his growing suspicions without confirming them. I sat down beside him and took his hands, looking at the photos with what I hoped appeared to be objective curiosity rather than panic. "You're right, there are differences," I said carefully. "But that's what happens when someone has a profound spiritual awakening. I literally became a different person, not in body but in spirit and mind. The way I carry myself, the expressions I make, even my instincts and reactions have all changed because I finally stopped pretending to be someone I wasn't." I picked up one of the older photos, studying Stella's confident smile with what appeared to be nostalgic sadness. This person was performing the role of Luna, but she wasn't truly living it. The woman you see now is who I was always meant to be, once I stopped hiding behind masks and expectations. Kieran wanted to believe my explanation. I could see the hope in his eyes warring with his instincts, but he wasn't completely convinced. Over the following days, he began testing me in subtle ways, bringing up obscure memories from their early relationship and watching my reactions carefully. Thanks to Stella's journal and my months of careful preparation, I passed most of these tests, but the constant scrutiny was exhausting and terrifying. The worst moment came when he mentioned a private nickname he'd apparently called Stella during intimate moments, something that wasn't in her journal and that I had never heard before. My blank confusion lasted only a second before I recovered, but I saw the flash of doubt in his eyes and knew he'd noticed my hesitation. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "Sometimes the old memories feel distant after everything I've been through. Could you remind me?" His explanation was gentle, but his gaze remained watchful, and I realized that my time might be running out faster than I'd thought. Just when I thought the pressure from Kieran's suspicions might break me, salvation came from an unexpected source. Mother requested a private meeting, and I prepared myself for another difficult conversation about the changes she'd noticed in her daughter. But instead of accusations or questions, she surprised me with a confession that changed everything. "I know who you are, Celeste," she said quietly, tears streaming down her face. "I've known for weeks, maybe months. A mother recognizes her children, even when one has been pretending to be the other." My shock must have been obvious because she quickly continued, "I'm not angry, sweetheart. If anything, I'm proud of you for stepping up when your sister couldn't handle the responsibility. You've become the Luna this pack needed, and watching you grow into your power has been the greatest joy of my life." Her acceptance and support felt like a miracle, but her next words reminded me that my situation was still precarious. "But you need to tell Kieran the truth soon. He's too smart and too connected to you to be fooled much longer, and when he discovers the deception on his own, it will hurt him far more than if you trust him with the truth." Mother's revelation that she'd known my identity all along was both liberating and overwhelming. For the first time in months, I could drop the pretense with someone who truly knew me, and we spent hours talking about my fears, my feelings for Kieran, and the impossible situation I'd created. "You've done nothing wrong," she assured me repeatedly. "You saved this pack when Stella abandoned it, and you've proven yourself to be the leader we always needed. But living a lie, even a well-intentioned one, takes a toll on everyone involved." She was right. The constant deception was exhausting, and I could see how it was affecting my relationship with Kieran. Every moment of genuine connection was tainted by the knowledge that he loved someone he thought I was rather than who I really am. "He loves you, Celeste," Mother said gently. "Not Stella. The woman he's fallen for over these past months is you, with all your strengths and wisdom and heart. He deserves to know that the person he loves is real, not a carefully crafted illusion." That night, as I lay beside Kieran listening to his troubled sleep, I finally made the decision I'd been avoiding for months. I couldn't continue living this lie, not when it was hurting both of us and preventing us from having the honest relationship we both deserved. Tomorrow I would tell him everything. About the prophecy, about Stella's abandonment, about my years of hiding and my decision to take her place. I would risk losing everything I'd fought so hard to build, but I would do it because love without truth isn't really love at all. As dawn broke over our territory, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, I whispered a prayer to the moon goddess for strength and courage. Tonight, after the pack's evening meal, I would ask Kieran to meet me in the same garden where we'd had so many meaningful conversations. I would wear the ceremonial Luna dress, not as Stella's costume, but as armor for the most important battle of my life. The hidden twin was finally ready to step fully into the light, whatever the cost. The moon hung low as I stood in the garden, my fingers clutching the folds of the golden Luna dress. The same dress I had once worn in fear now felt like armor. I turned when I heard Kieran's footsteps on the gravel path. "You wanted to talk?" he asked, his voice warm but cautious. "Yes," I said, my voice trembling. There's something you deserve to know. Something I should have told you long ago. His brow furrowed, but he didn't interrupt. I took a deep breath, then another before I finally spoke. I'm not Stella. The silence between us was crushing. I'm her twin, Celeste. His eyes didn't widen in shock the way I feared. They narrowed in disbelief. What kind of game is this? No game. I was hidden because of a prophecy. I lived my whole life beneath the pack house, watching Stella live the life that was supposed to be mine. When she ran off with Derek, I took her place to protect the pack. Kieran stepped back, hands on his hips, staring at the ground. You're serious? Yes, I whispered. Every word. He didn't speak for a long time. I waited, barely breathing, as he walked away a few paces, then turned back to face me. You lied to me, he said, voice low. Every day, every touch, every word. I know. Hated it. But I couldn't let the pack fall apart. I couldn't let them suffer because Stella abandoned them. His jaw tightened. And what about me? Did you ever think about what it would do to me to fall in love with a stranger? I didn't plan that, I said. I didn't expect to fall in love with you either. That made him pause. You love me. Tears burned my eyes. Yes. Every part of this has been wrong, except what's real between us. He shook his head slowly. I need time. I don't know what to think right now. Then he walked away. And for the first time since I put on Stella's crown, I felt truly naked. The next few days were a blur. Kieran avoided me. I didn't blame him. I didn't expect forgiveness, not right away. Mother visited, offering quiet comfort. He'll come back to you, she said. He just needs to let the truth settle. But the pack noticed. Kieran's silence. My distracted eyes. Rumors began to churn like storm clouds. Then came word that the consortium was returning. I couldn't afford to fall apart. Not now. Counselor Blackthorn returned with new allies. 3 new wolves who didn't bother to hide their contempt. They called an emergency pack council and accused us of harboring an imposter Luna. I stood alone in the circle of pack elders, heart pounding. I am not Stella, I said, voice clear. I am Celeste, her twin. And yes, I have led under false pretenses. But look around you. This pack is stronger than it has been in years. I didn't take this position for power. I took it to protect our people when your Luna ran away. The silence was tense. Then Elder Samuel stood. She didn't lie to take something, she lied to save everything. And just like that, I wasn't standing alone anymore. That night, Kieran came to my chambers. He didn't say anything at first, just stood by the doorway watching me. I thought I loved Stella, he said finally. But I never really did. I loved the Luna you became. I just didn't know she wasn't the person I thought. I didn't move. And now, yes, now I know who you are. And I know I still love you. My breath hitched. But I need you to be honest with me always, he said. I will, I promised. No more lies. Ever. He pulled me into his arms. And this time the embrace didn't feel borrowed. It felt like home. At the next pack assembly, I stood before everyone. Not as Stella, not as a ghost, but as myself. I am Celeste, I said. And I've deceived you. But I did it to protect this pack. If you no longer want me as your Luna, I'll step down. Silence. Then one voice, Jenny. You're the best Luna we've had. More voices joined her. I stand with Celeste. You saved us. And when the crowd began to chant my name, I knew the truth had set us all free. Of course, not everyone was pleased. 2 nights later, we were ambushed at the northern border. Mercenaries hired by the consortium, trying to take Kieran and I hostage. They underestimated our pack. Kieran fought like a storm. I led our warriors into battle, my instincts guiding every decision. We drove them back. We protected our home. And when it was over, Kieran looked at me with pride. Celeste, he said, you're not just my mate. You're my equal. Weeks later, as the territory settled, Stella returned. Alone. Worry. Change. She didn't beg. She didn't argue. "I'm not here to take anything back," she said. "I just wanted to see what you built." I looked her in the eye. "It's not mine alone. This pack needed a Luna, and I became her." "I know," she said. "And I'm sorry I ever doubted you could." We hugged. Two twins who had finally found themselves, by living each other's lives. The moon goddess blessed us under a full moon. This time there was no pretense, no secrets. Kieran marked me, not as a substitute, but as his true mate. The ceremony was quiet, sacred. Just us and the pack who had watched us rise from ruin. When his teeth broke skin, I didn't flinch. When I howled, the sound was pure and real. I was Luna. I was loved. I was free. Weeks later, Elder Marta summoned me. "The stars have shifted," she said. "A new prophecy has formed." I braced myself. Two daughters of the crimson moon. One who hid to protect, one who ran to be free. Both will lead, but only one will carry the legacy. I waited. "And you, Celeste. You are the one who will birth a new era." I didn't know if she meant children, peace, or something else entirely. But I believed her. Because finally I was no longer hidden. I was seen. I was chosen. Even after the ceremony, some scars remained. Not everyone in the pack accepted the truth so easily. A few elders questioned whether tradition had been broken too far. Some warriors still whispered Stella's name like a ghost that refused to rest. "I don't need them all to love me," I told Kieran as we walked through the training fields one morning. "I just need them to trust me." He nodded. "You've earned more than trust. But if we want to solidify your place, we need to give them something undeniable." "What do you mean?" "A Luna trial," he said. "The ancient kind." I swallowed hard. That meant a test of strength, diplomacy, and spirit. And everything would be public. But I agreed. It was time to show them all that I wasn't just good enough. I was born for this. The Luna trial lasted 3 days. On the first day, I was challenged in battle by the pack's strongest female warrior. I fought with everything I'd learned, every scar I'd earned in secret. I didn't overpower her. I outsmarted her. And when I offered my hand instead of finishing the fight, she bowed before me in respect. The second trial tested my mind. The council posed difficult moral dilemmas rooted in real pack history. I spoke from the heart, not from what I thought they wanted to hear. And that was enough. On the third day, the spiritual trial came. Alone in the woods, I faced a vision of Stella. She looked radiant, untouched by the life that had broken her. She asked me only one thing. "Do you regret becoming me?" I answered honestly, "No, because it let me become more than I ever thought I could be." And when I opened my eyes, the moonlight felt like a blessing. After the trials, something in Kieran shifted too. He began inviting me to strategy meetings not as a partner, but as a co-leader. "I've always respected you," he said one night, tracing his thumb across my wrist. "But now, I see what the moon goddess saw. You weren't just meant to be Luna. You were meant to stand beside me, as Alpha." It wasn't tradition. But our entire journey had broken tradition. At the next full council meeting, Kieran announced it himself. "This pack has 2 alphas now. And Celeste isn't just my mate. She is my equal." No one objected. Because by then, even the doubters knew. Winter came early that year, bringing with it more than just frost. Reports came in from neighboring packs. Disappearances, rogue attacks, unnatural patterns in the wild. "We're being tested again," Vincent said grimly, appearing at our gates with maps and theories. "The consortium may have failed, but something worse has taken root in their place. A darker force. One that doesn't want to negotiate. We called it the Frost Curse. Wolves went missing in the night. Tracks led nowhere. Trees bled sap that smelled like ash. Stella, now living quietly in the southern hills, sent word. Something is coming. And it's older than either of us." We called a summit of all the nearby packs. Some refused. Others came wary. At the center of it all stood Kieran and I, presenting plans, unity, and a clear message. We fight together or we fall one by one. It wasn't easy. Many alphas scoffed at a twin once hidden in the shadows, now demanding their loyalty. But then the wind shifted, and a scout brought in the body of a young rogue, frozen solid, marked with runes we didn't recognize. The fear spread quickly, and unity followed. The first battle was chaos. Whatever this enemy was, they weren't wolves. Not exactly. They were hybrids, mutations of magic and claw, wearing human faces but fighting like beasts. We lost warriors that night. Brave ones. But we held our ground. And when I faced one of the creatures in the forest alone, I understood something deep and terrible. These things weren't just attacking us. They were searching for me. 'Cause they knew. They knew I wasn't the chosen Luna. I was something more dangerous. I was the hidden one who was never supposed to rise. In the aftermath of the first siege, we called for the oldest living seer, Mara, the healer of winds. She came in silence, blind eyes white as frost, led by 2 wolves twice my size. Her voice was a whisper wrapped in steel. "The crimson moon returns soon," she said. "And when it does, the fate of every pack will hang on a single truth." "What truth?" Yes. She turned her head toward me. "That your soul was never meant to stay hidden. And neither was your power." Then she touched my forehead and whispered something ancient. I collapsed, visions swirling in my mind. Of fire, ice, and a howling child in the snow. I woke days later, stronger than I had any right to be. The visions had left something behind. Spark. A gift. The kind of strength that legends speak of, where Luna and Alpha become more than titles. They become the soul of the pack itself. But the power came with a cost. Dreams tormented me. Visions of Stella dying in the hills. Of Kieran bleeding under a moonless sky. I couldn't protect everyone. I couldn't stop what was coming. But I could lead. And I could fight. The final battle came with the red moon rising. The enemy arrived with silence and shadows. But we met them with fire and unity. Stella returned to fight beside me. Derek at her side. The twins once torn apart now fought as one. Kieran took the front lines. I took the high ground. The war wasn't short, but we won. Not because of magic. Not because of prophecy. But because we knew who we were, and we chose to fight for what we loved. When the dust settled and the fires died down, the red moon bled into gold. And the era of shadows ended. Months passed. The pack thrived. Stella left again, this time with peace in her heart. She and Derek roamed freely, their bond intact, their purpose no longer burdened by guilt. Vincent vanished as he always did. But not before leaving a note. "You were never the second twin. Just the one who waited for the right moment to rise." Kieran and I stood together as Alpha and Luna, equals, leaders, lovers. And when the moon goddess finally answered the question that had haunted me for years, it came not in words but in the quiet heartbeat I felt within me. Life. A new generation. Not a prophecy. Voice. And that was the legacy I would leave behind.